Sometimes us as black people, we become so obsessed and extremely obsessed with racism to the point that we see it in everything, and we keep on playing this victim mode that we everything that has ever happened to us, which is terrible, is because of white people. Today's topic, I want to discuss something that I always want to always remind people. In as much as we go the activism way as black people, or the revolutionary way, or whatever you may call it, Pan-Africanist, whatever it is, I always want to, so that I'm also part of this movement, and I'm also parading this motion that the black people have been disadvantaged because of the past of slavery and colonialism. But at the end of the day, I always want to remind black people. I don't want to act like all those politicians that keeps on telling the black people, the black folks, that you are the victim. You are a victim. Your problem is white people. Literally becoming anti-white. And so many movements and activists and politicians who claims and tries to stand for black people end up losing course into this hatred and become a literally anti-white movements instead of standing for black people, instead of looking at the problems and say, what can we do better? Being solution oriented, we become problem oriented. We start looking for problems every single time, claiming that we are victims. It's not our fault, it's because of them. And this notion is very dangerous, because at the end of the day, we will end up suffering the same fate of those who we are accusing of racially discriminating against us. We are also doing the same thing. We have white people amongst us in Africa, and it is a fact of life. These white people are going to be amongst us, and some of them are citizens of our countries. They're not going anywhere. And in a normal world, everybody should be free to live anywhere, everywhere else, as long as they are legally there. So the fact of the matter is, we do have white people in Africa. The fact that they are flourishing or they're prospering than us as black people, it's a different matter, and there's a different conversation. It's one thing to try and point out terrible things that white people could be doing to black people, all the racism and all that. You must hate racism, not hate white people. You must be able to distinguish and separate the two. Not that because you are poor or because you don't have is because of white people. This becomes a very dangerous notion, and this victimhood, man, it takes away the power from us to actually reflect and look into the mirror and say, but you know what, it's us as black people. We are also failing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Playing a victim usually takes away power from you. You cannot progress if you feel like you are a victim, because you are actually neglecting the process that you are supposed to go through. You are supposed to look at yourself in the mirror and face the fact that you are the author of your own life. It is the sole responsibility of you and I as black people to develop ourselves, to build ourselves. Amongst ourselves, there are so much good white people who are amongst us, who have good hearts, who are not racist towards anybody, who are also willing to help. Some of them, if they are in a position of privilege. So it is a terrible notion that every black movement has to become anti-white. That doesn't help. We cannot solve hate by hate. Our problems are, we are also in the center of our problems, with the misgovernance, with failure to develop ourselves, failure to believe in ourselves. We have had independence in some sense in Africa, but the fact that we are not developing, we cannot externalize that responsibility and say it's only the West, it's only them, it's only them. We should be wise enough and be able to discern when a politician is, or any leader of any movement or any black movement, black empowerment, whatever it is selling you the idea that you are a victim and it's because of white people. We must be able to see through this and understand where that leader is coming from, because they are also human beings, and some of these politicians are actually doing it because they want to be significant. They want to get your attention. They want to get your vote. This is what they also do for a living. And they end up selling you this idea that you are a victim, which even destroys you, which takes power away from you, which lets you go sit back and say it's not my fault, it's their fault. Because once you externalize responsibility, you don't look at yourself in the mirror and say, what can I do today in whatever circumstance that I have? What can I do today to improve my life? Then you become a victim. Then you sit down and wait for them. Because if it's them who are the problem, if it's them who have taken your wealth, because if it's them, then it means you don't have to do anything. You just have to sit down, and they must change. They must fix this. They must, for your life to be better. But the world doesn't work like that. We can preach all these things that we talk about, but at the end of the day, we still have to grind. We still have to work. At the end of the day, the responsibility comes to us as Black people to build ourselves. In the process, while we are looking at what is wrong, we have to look at both sides. We have to look at us, and then we look at the external forces. The enemy without cannot do anything to us if there's no enemy within. The problem is we have problems, internal problems that we are not willing to address. But if we look at ourselves as Black people and take some sort of responsibility and say, okay, this is our fault, this is our fault, we need to fix that. We need to balance this, not just becoming victims and becoming anti-white and start spreading hate towards white people. They're just living their lives. Some of them, they don't even listen to us. They don't even listen to all the nonsense that we are busy crying and mourning about, because they're living their lives. And the politicians are very, very clever. They know. They know what sells, what serves them. They cannot tell you that you are not a victim. They know if they say to you, you are a victim because of white people, because of this, because of that. They know. Then they become the solution, because they become the one who says, "I'm going to fight for you." And then their career continues. They do not benefit much in telling you the actual facts of the matter, to say, you know what, at the end of the day, changing external factors, changing somebody else, changing white people, changing the West, changing America does not happen very easily, and it might never happen. At the end of the day, what we can do is change ourselves. What we can do is do whatever we can with what we have. Because if we just sit down and cry and hope that our voices are going to be heard, and eventually one day things will change. It might never happen. It might take decades and decades. We need to take responsibility. I do not support the notion that we are victims and somebody else's fault, because of our situation is because of somebody else's fault, is because of them, is because of them. No, we have to take responsibility of misgoverning ourselves. Look at how our governments as Black people have done, to the continent. Nothing much. Horrible things. There's misgovernance. There's corruption. There's no vision. There's lack of leadership. It's our fault. The West comes and influences your government, and your government allows them. They agree to be bought, and that's corruption. It's not the West's fault. You cannot entirely blame it on the West. We as the people are to blame. Us as Black people are solely to blame for our problems. But we have leaders who want to teach us and tell us and make us believe that we are victims, because they benefit from that. They become our saviors. They start acting as if they are the ones we have the solution to our problems. But no,